Hi, Paul Thurrott here at Ignite 2019. I'm with Stephen Rose, the Senior Marketing Manager for Microsoft 365. That title alone is very interesting to me because we've known each other for a long time, and it appears that your career has in many ways gone along with the evolution to Microsoft 365.
It really has. It's interesting because, you and I met back when I was in Windows before we launched Windows 7.
Yeah.
Went through the interesting years of Windows 8 and 10. And then I moved over to OneDrive when it was going through its rebirth. And, we got to really connect our audience with the product and get something that's good. And now coming back to how all these products come together.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so in many ways, Microsoft 365 is a combination of all of those things, the
Exactly.
Office 365,
Windows,
security,
security, management, all the Michael Niehaus stuff that we've done in the past.
Yeah. So, how has the world changed from that all-up perspective? If you, in 30 words or less.
Right, yeah.
Microsoft has kind of mirrored the way the world has gone.
I think as we look at this conference this week in IT Pros, I think in a nutshell, we've gone from managing the device to managing the data. That's really the biggest shift. It is bring any device, bring a Mac, bring a PC, use an iPhone. As long as you're using the Microsoft products to tie that together, which you can do, you can move between those devices seamlessly. And now with Azure Information Protection and tools like that, it doesn't matter where they're stored because the moment that somebody says, I'm out of here, you push a button, you remove access, and that data's secure, easy to get to. And now with Teams, we're able to shift from kind of email now into everybody working in one place, which makes that aspect easier.
Yeah, there's a lot of choice now in Microsoft 365 and lots of different audiences that you're serving.
Yeah.
Have you seen a shift in the way that people work, the way that what the expectations are? What's the big trend there?
Well, for the first time ever, we have 4 generations of workers working. We have boomers, we have the folks our age who still remember what IRQs are and all
Yes.
that good stuff.
Yep.
And then we have our Gen X and millennials. And what's interesting is those are the folks who were born in the cloud. They want to work on any device. They want to work from Starbucks. They see texting and chatting as the way to really communicate. And they see an email as how you tell people there's donuts in the break room. So we have this older generation that's really, if I want to retain great talent, we have to start using these tools. And for folks that are, older and aren't seeing it, the thing that I say is when you send an email, how long are you waiting for a response? And then there's another email. So a day or two in chat, hi, I need this. We'll pull somebody into the chat. Here's the answer. Here you go. Boom, done. It's really changing how folks communicate. And companies that want to keep good talent have to do that.
Right. It's interesting because some of the big announcements here this week with regards to Microsoft 365 kind of speak to integration between the old and the new, the Outlook integration into Teams and so forth. What do you see as the big Microsoft 365 keystone announcements from this event in particular?
I think there's a lot. And I hate the word artificial intelligence. It's so overused and it's Skynet-y. I really think we're building more and more services that are anticipatory. Right. Hi, you're going to need to do this. That if I go into Outlook Mobile, I say, show me all the emails with attachments, it just does that. When I walk into a meeting, do you want to share these files with everybody? And I think as we start to interweave more and more of these services, we're saying to folks, hey, if you're in the car or you're in a bus, let me read your emails to you and you figure out what you want to do with it. More and more of those types of services. So it's getting smarter, it's getting more intelligent, and it's allowing me to better see what other people are doing and how to interact with them. It's just how do I streamline this into my everyday life rather than having to change how I work? And I think that's the big thing for folks is it's here. How do we want to leverage it and use it?
You've been around long enough, like I have, to remember things like smart tags, and it's really interesting to see the kind of modern take on that in Microsoft 365
or
today.
Info path to flow, and
where you're just surfacing things on behalf of the user proactively rather than forcing them to go look for things and so forth.
Right. Yeah, and now with Edge, there's a new feature where in business, when you launch, it brings up kind of your Microsoft homepage with all your files and what you're working with, and it's getting folks to go, hey, it's all right here. And now with Union, you don't even need to have the app on the device. You just click the file, it opens up, you're working with it right there, which our younger lovers that are coming in, that are coming out of college and all that, totally dig. And for folks that are a little bit older, I got now 10 different ways to do things, but it's like copy and paste. There's 10 ways to do it. Right. What's the one that best fits in?
Yeah, I love that feature you mentioned, Microsoft Search integration into Bing, into the browser. And it's funny because we've tried to do that in reverse, bring web search down to the desktop, but I actually think that bringing organizational search right into the browser is just brilliant.
The other feature I really love that we came out with recently was in PowerPoint was the translate feature.
Yeah.
I had a meeting. Actually, I was in Mumbai. I was in Sweden. I'd put it up on the screen and start to talk, and they would see it in their own language, and they would lose their minds. And as we look at how do we make more meetings diverse and inclusive, cameras do a great job inside of Teams. The translation, transcription, search and stream. All of these are allowing us to better communicate with people where maybe English is a second language or they have different disabilities, which those types of features make it better. And I think we grow as a company and we grow as people when we start to do meetings with people that have much different ideas and perceptions and ways to look at things than us.
Right. One of the central benefits of Office 365 is that it just became sort of a no-brainer. And now as you move forward with Microsoft 365 and you're bringing in so much more, it becomes even more of a no-brainer. I mean, do you see this kind of lessening the friction of companies moving to the cloud? Are you seeing a big push now all of a sudden to, there was a lot of pushback against the cloud at the beginning.
Yeah.
Is that finally, were we over that hump?
I think in most areas, yes. I think there are still countries like Germany that's very, very locked down where we're still hybrid. But I feel that big moment was about a year or so ago when a lot of companies looked and said, okay, if they're going to the cloud, we can do it. Or we got hit, and if we were in the cloud, we would have been more secure. Or people now want to use so many different devices, and they want to come in with their Mac in this. We want to offer that experience.
Yeah.
And I think overall, bundling, putting together Windows and Office and security into one, we're getting better synergy. Things like Windows Virtual Desktop, where I can just now host that. It's included within that license. You can run it off your cell phone in a browser, access that content anywhere. Starts to open up new scenarios that we couldn't have done with just Office or just Windows or just security.
Right.
And people now are also looking at more of a single pane of glass because those services talk to each other and give insights you don't get when they're separate or when you have a best of breed solution.
Right.
They don't talk to each other.
So you have to tell the folks about the demo you did for Windows Virtual Desktop. I thought that was fascinating.
So what we're doing here is we're taking an Android phone, a Galaxy 8, and we're plugging it into a simple USB-C hub.
Right.
So Ethernet, HDMI, 2 USB ports, and power, and it goes out and it's a full workstation. And what's great is for a first line worker, they show up, they plug it in. It's as fast, if not faster, than their laptop. They also have LTE.
Right.
They work on those 32 or 64-bit apps, and we're extending support for 7 and 7 apps so they can continue to do that. Unplug and walk away. And that dramatically changes. I don't even need to carry a laptop. My phone becomes that single device and access to everything in the world. And that just starts to really open up cool opportunities. Police officers, everybody from your UPS driver to your doctor, it starts to really shift that around.
Yeah, no, I love the Microsoft Works wherever you are.
Yeah.
This is so fantastic. So you spoke earlier about older people, and you motioned to me, which I appreciate.
And me, I'm right there with
you. Younger. Obviously, there's a spectrum of user ages and then user expectations. As you've evolved things like Teams and so forth, have you seen any trends? In other words, people like me, like you were talking about email. I expect that email conversation, but of course, a lot of younger people expect the Teams style conversation. Have you seen any? I always sort of think like Teams could become the center of everyone's workday in the same way that Outlook was, or it still is.
Still is for many people. Yeah, it's funny when I was with OneDrive, I had to start working with engineering. So I'd send an email.
Yeah.
I wouldn't get an answer back for 24 hours. Hi, it's this. Another email. It's like 3-4 days.
Yep.
And finally they went, if you just jump on Teams, we'll chat. Yeah. And we had just released Teams. So I had not used Slack, I had not used Teams, and I'm like, but I use email. I can search for everything. It's all right there. Then when I started doing Teams, I realized I was getting things answered quicker. They were dropping the files right in. And the other thing is, and this is a great scenario which really resonates well, if you add somebody to a project you're working on and all you're doing is email and the X drive and all that, how quickly are you getting somebody onto that project? Are you sending them 100 emails in a 5-page long document? And here's my X drive and here's this. Or going, I always say I can do it in 30 minutes. It's 1 minute to add them to the team and 29 minutes for them to read through the conversations, go into a stream video, type in the keywords, and walk away going, I know where we're at and I have a few questions. That's night and day. And when I finally grokked that and got onto that, I realized this is the direction. And now I look for the donut emails, and I still have a lot of those coming in. But I am finding Teams is better as that way to really kind of work in the moment and less distracting. And I sort of put email into that. I'll do that once or twice a day at certain times.
It's funny. There's really a transition. It's not really so much Outlook to Teams as it is Outlook to SharePoint and Yammer and Teams. Like there's an interesting.
It's the change of the balance where it was like all this. Now it's more like this. Email's not going to go away, but I think we're going to change how we use it like so many tools.
Right.
And we'll find it's really great for this, and we're going to continue to use it here, but more and more of this stuff is going to end up over here for at least for a while.
So you did touch on this briefly, but I want to go, it's just almost an inside baseball type question because you were Windows, and Windows was its own thing. It was separate from everything else.
It was. And
you went over to OneDrive, which was part of SharePoint, sort of part of Office 365.
Yeah, it was all Jeff Teeper stuff,
was its own thing. But now that you're in Microsoft 365, those teams are all together essentially, and so there's a lot of co-development going on, and even with the hardware stuff with Surface. I mean, how has that changed both what it's like for you as an employee, but also Microsoft's products and services? I mean, has this been a big change?
If you look at the show this year, and a lot of people say that, it doesn't look like a whole bunch of separate products. We look a lot more like one Microsoft and just sort of digging into these areas. And it's great to have people from the Surface team come and say, hey, we're doing this, and we'd love to make Whiteboard pop up when we're using it in Teams and have it pop up here. So there's more people going, how do we have these experiences follow you? Right. How do we have what's yours, whether it's the cloud paste or all that? So there's a lot more thinking as a 3, but it's interesting because Windows was the captain of the ship when I first came on board, and now it's part of this evolving service. Yeah, that this updates and this is here, and it kind of helps everything, and there isn't that sort of standout. It's this Azure wrapper that Office sort of wraps around all that, and then Windows is sort of inside, but then we have the mobile and iOS, and it's so different, but there's so much better synergy, and the bottom line is our customers win. It's not, you can use any device, and I can go to Starbucks and feel productive, and companies are realizing this and going, much like we work, we need to let you work the way you want, how you want, and I feel now we're better supporting that, where we weren't doing that 5-10 years ago at all.
That's great. Well, thank you so much.
Always
great to talk to you.
Friend.
Love you, and thank you so much.
Thank you,
Paul and Stephen from Ignite, and we are out.